The Supreme Court chamber fell into stunned silence. What had just happened wasn't just unusual. It was unprecedented in the annals of modern judicial history. Justice Sonia Sotomayor, one of the most respected and influential voices on the highest court in America, had just interrupted Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett mid-sentence during a high-stakes oral argument. But what followed left everyone in that marble-pillared chamber absolutely speechless. The tension had been simmering for months, yet not the seasoned justices, not the gallery packed with scholars, politicians, and legal veterans, and certainly not the court reporters who thought they had seen it all, could have predicted what they were about to witness. Because in just under 30 seconds, a rising Democratic congresswoman would challenge the foundations of how the Supreme Court operates. And Justice Odmer's reaction? It would send a ripple through Washington that still hasn't stopped. The air inside the court crackled with anticipation. Spectators had lined up before dawn to get a seat, and many whispered that something historic was brewing. In the gallery, legal experts exchanged glances. Veteran Supreme Court reporters silently braced for what might become the defining moment of their careers. Before we take you into the heart of this explosive confrontation, one that has ignited a nationwide firestorm, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell. You won't want to miss what comes next. Trust us. This story has it all: power, principle, and two brilliant women going head-to-head in America's most sacred legal chamber. This wasn't just a legal argument. This was a collision of generations, ideologies, and interpretations of justice. At 70 years old, Justice Sonia Sotomayor is a formidable figure. Appointed by President Obama in 2009, she became the first Latina to serve on the Supreme Court. Her voice has become synonymous with passionate dissents, particularly in cases involving civil rights and immigration. Known for her razor-sharp intellect and her uncompromising directness, her journey from a Bronx housing project to Princeton, Yale, and eventually the highest court in the land is legendary. For over a decade, she's been seen as the liberal conscience of the court, feared by unprepared lawyers, admired for her clarity, and respected across ideological lines. But on this day, she wasn't facing a rookie attorney. She was facing Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. At 43, Crockett is considered one of the boldest new voices in Washington. A former public defender and civil rights attorney, she rose quickly through the ranks of Democratic leadership. Representing Texas's 30th district, including parts of Dallas, she made national headlines for her viral committee performances and unapologetic political voice. Her legal background, social media mastery, and unwavering commitment to progressive values made her a rising star. But even she had never stood in this courtroom, until now. The case before the court was Henderson versus Texas, a landmark battle over voting rights that could redefine redistricting power nationwide. Crockett, as a Judiciary Committee member, was granted the rare privilege of joining DOJ lawyers in presenting oral arguments, a move that had already ruffled feathers among court traditionalists. For Justice Sotomayor, the case echoed everything she had fought for in her career. For Crockett, it was about the very survival of democracy, and neither was prepared to back down. Legal analysts had speculated for weeks about the unusual arrangement. Some called it a publicity stunt. Others said it marked a necessary evolution in the relationship between Congress and the court. Justice Sotomayor, behind closed doors, was known to be skeptical. She believed deeply in judicial decorum and hierarchy, having risen through the system the traditional way. Crockett, however, had spent months preparing. She studied every voting rights precedent. She trained with constitutional law professors. She knew that in this room, every word mattered. And she also knew that she wasn't just walking into ideological crossfire from conservatives, but that some liberals might view her as a political intruder. The chamber was unusually full that day. Reporters filled every available seat. Legal interns stood pressed against walls. Even Chief Justice Roberts seemed more tense than usual. Justice Sotomayor, as a typically composed presence, showed subtle signs of discomfort. Everyone sensed it. This session would be historic. When Congresswoman Crockett stepped into the chamber, all eyes turned. Unlike the gray-suited lawyers usually seen at the podium, Crockett wore a tailored navy suit, commanding attention, yet respectful of the institution. Her entrance alone shifted the dynamic in the room. Chief Justice Roberts opened the session with the standard formalities. Then Crockett rose. "Your Honors," she began, her voice calm, measured but powerful. "I stand before you today not just as a member of Congress, but as someone who has witnessed firsthand how the decisions of this court affect real people in real communities." Justice Thomas leaned in. Justice Alito froze mid-note. Even Justice Barrett looked up, intrigued. And Justice Sotomayor clenched her jaw slightly, tapping her pen once, a sign of irritation known to veteran court watchers. As Crockett laid out her case, referencing constitutional clauses and quoting key decisions, the questions came fast. Justice Kavanaugh challenged her reading of precedent. Justice Gorsuch pushed on states' rights. And then, Justice Alito, his voice sharp, fired a dangerous question. "Are you asking this court to rewrite decades of precedent based on your political perspective?" The gallery gasped. Crockett didn't hesitate. "With all due respect, Justice Alito," she replied, "I'm not asking you to rewrite precedent. I'm asking you to apply it correctly. And nothing about equal representation should ever be considered a political preference." It was bold, it was pointed, and it was just the beginning. Crockett then pivoted to personal stories. Examples from her own district. Families broken by gerrymandering, communities disenfranchised, voices silenced. That's when Justice Sotomayor struck. "Congresswoman Crockett!" she snapped, her voice cutting like steel. "This court is not a political forum. We deal with law, not anecdotes." The room froze. Even the court stenographer looked up. Justice Sotomayor continued, stern and unyielding. "Your role here is to present legal arguments, not political narratives." It was a rare public reprimand, and many believed it would end Crockett's momentum. But then Crockett did something extraordinary. She smiled, not nervously, but confidently, and she responded. "With the utmost respect, Justice Sotomayor," she began, "I must disagree. Was it not the personal story of Linda Brown that led to Brown versus Board? Wasn't it the story of Clarence Gideon that established the right to counsel?" She paused, letting the weight of those names fill the silence. "Justice Sotomayor," she continued, "at your own confirmation hearings, your personal story was central. Your experience with diabetes, your mother's sacrifices, your roots in the Bronx, those stories shaped your perspective. Are we now to believe that the stories of the people affected by this court's rulings are irrelevant?" The chamber was so still you could hear the hum of the air conditioning. Justice Sotomayor's face was unreadable, but her grip on her pen tightened. Then came the defining moment. "Your Honor," Crockett said, "I took an oath when I entered Congress to support and defend the Constitution. That same Constitution empowers you to interpret the law and empowers me to speak for my constituents. When you silence my stories, you don't just silence me, you silence them." A stunned hush swept through the chamber. Crockett then addressed the broader implications. The question before this court is not just legal, it is human. And if you strip the humanity from the law, what are you left with? Justice Sotomayor leaned forward. Congresswoman Crockett, she said slowly, are you suggesting that this court abandoned legal principles in favor of popular sentiment? It was a trap, but Crockett was ready. No, Your Honor, she said. I'm suggesting that legal principles must be grounded in the realities of the people they affect. Otherwise, we are not serving the Constitution. We are hiding behind it. Even Justice Thomas looked up at that. What followed was 10 minutes of powerful, poised, and unrelenting advocacy. A woman from Texas taking on one of the most powerful institutions in America. By the time Crockett stepped away from the podium, the courtroom buzzed like never before. Justice Sotomayor, visibly affected, remained silent for a long time. Then she said the unthinkable. Congresswoman Crockett, she said, you've given this court much to consider. It wasn't an apology, but it wasn't a dismissal either. And for the first time in memory, the Supreme Court had listened. The story spread like wildfire. Within 24 hours, the court's YouTube stream reached over 2 million views. Legal scholars debated the implications. AOC called Crockett a hero. Conservative pundits admitted it was a masterclass. And across America, everyday people finally felt that someone had stood up, not just for the law, but for them. So now we ask you, did Jasmine Crockett go too far in challenging Justice Sotomayor? Or did she do exactly what elected officials are supposed to do? Hold the powerful accountable. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We're reading every single one. And if you believe in fearless storytelling, if you want to see what happens when power gets challenged in real time, subscribe to Secret Files right now and ring that notification bell. Because this conversation is just getting started. In American democracy, the most important voices are often the ones power tries to silence. And we're here to make sure they're heard.